Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Fanfic Series 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Has Harem with Hinata Ino and Sakura Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. It was weird. Naruto had always known he'd die before becoming a genin. Mizuki. How could you? Iruka-sensei had arrived too late, unfortunately. Naruto lay on the ground, a Fuma shuriken sticking out of his stomach, and pierced slightly through his back. That was beyond painful. Each breath he took burned and filled his lungs and mouth with blood. His vision started blurring. At least he'll die knowing someone tried to save him. Iruka had dived towards Naruto, but he was just a split second too late. Wait a minute, what did Mizuki just say? Iruka winced as Naruto sputtered. He had heard him. Mizuki had just revealed that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. The fox. The freaking nine-tailed fox had been in him all along. So many things were rushing though his head at once. Was that the reason the villagers hated him? Was he the only one that didn't know? Then it finally hit him. None of it would matter. He was only minutes, probably seconds away from death. He'd just wait to find the answers in the afterlife. You pathetic mortal. Naruto's eyes shot wide open. However, he wasn't laying in the forest. He was looking up into pure darkness. Regardless of everything else, Naruto knew what the voice belonged to. Nothing, ever, had scared him to the point where he couldn't breathe except for the mention of the nine-tailed demon, the Kyuubi no Oni. Fool, stand on your feet. Naruto unhesitantly did as commanded. He was standing in a sewer-like tunnel, with water everywhere. However, from pipes and cracks in the wall, red liquid was oozing out, making the water rise slowly. Naruto sniffed the air and grimaced. As that, blood, seeing the liquid piling higher, he began to run. Rounding corner after corner, the liquid only seemed to drip faster and more frequently. Then he came to a dead end. A giant cage with a paper seal on the bars loomed high overhead, going to the darkness of the ceiling to seem like it went on forever. Welcome to my humble abode. The gruff voice of the Kyuubi rumbled through the bars. Naruto shivered from the voice. Hearing the fox firsthand was more chilling than death's touch. The fox opened one giant red eye to glare at the 12-year-old. Naruto would have pissed his pants, already did. The Kyuubi growled. Disgusting little brat. Can't you do anything right? Your insides even fill with your tainted blood. Is this truly the death you want? The Kyuubi's was bordering criticism and empathy. No, I don't wanna die, Naruto cried, running towards the bars. The fox rushed forward but was repelled back with twice as much force. The seal glowed for several seconds before returning to normal. Even in your feeble state, that cursed seal holds strong. The fox laid down and glared at Naruto again. I thought I could escape and just let you die, but that won't be happening. You will not die here tonight. There is too much for us to accomplish together before I can have the satisfaction of watching the life drain from you. What do you mean us? This is my body and I don't remember inviting you. Naruto yelled, pointing at the fox. Knowing that the seal prevented the fox from coming closer gave him the little boost in courage he needed. You have the gall to speak to me that way, but can't even fight off a few villagers or one low-ranked chunin. The fox chuckled. Very interesting indeed. Naruto was going to reply until he felt something warm drip onto his face. Wiping the thick substance, he saw that it was his own blood. We've wasted too much time. If you want to live, then you will have to let go of all thought for this moment. Why? Naruto growled. If I die here, then you die too. The world will be better off with us both gone. You fool. You will only be giving the satisfaction to those that have wanted you gone from the very beginning. Do you think if you die they will see you as a hero? Ha, that's funny. The reason they all want you dead is because of me. So even in death, my name will live on while you fade away into the nothing that you belong in. The fox began to think of the fact. Nah, death wasn't worth it just yet. Toying with the kit's mind was fun though. Naruto groaned and gritted his teeth. No matter how he thought about it, the fox had made a legitimate point. It was just another reminder of how fucked up life was for him. What do I have to do? He conceded. Absorb one of my tails. Naruto blinked. That's it. No. Give me your soul or release me, mumbo jumbo. Ignorant insect. This is no joke, though perhaps releasing me. The fox seemed to laugh to itself as it started thinking of what to do first when it's free. Naruto snapped his fingers. Hello, two entities dying here. Be silent. I warn you now, your chakra is already massive and potent. By adding one tail of my own chakra, you will hold near infinite chakra. However, your control will be as worthless as you, and this is if your body can even handle such a sudden increase of that magnitude. Blah, blah, if you don't do it we both die. Let's at least take a chance to live. HMHM, arrogant and ignorant. Human and demon alike while so young. Naruto pondered for a second why the fox sounded almost normal. That is, until the fox lashed one of its tails at the gate. The seal began to glow and spark. An electric current immediately covered the demon, making him cringe in pain. In the same instance, red sparks fired at Naruto and began to do the same thing. He cried out as the sparks began to lift him in the air. The whisker marks on his cheeks began to bleed. His eyes began to glow red. A tail began to form. As the chakra poured into him, something else did as well. They were flashes, as vivid as day. The huge fluctuation of power was causing him to hallucinate, or so he thought. The first thing he saw was himself wearing a leaf headband. Everything in between blurred until it showed him with his two classmates, Sakura and Sasuke. They were taking a picture with a masked, silver-haired man reading a book. He could even hear what was being said. Team 7, Jonin instructor Hatake Kakashi. Though everything in between blurred, he held it all in. The little things such as which shoe he put on first every morning to how many times he ate ramen. A constant in this vision. Then he was on a foggy bridge, in a glass mirror dome like jutsu. He and Sasuke were fighting someone by the name of Haku. Another blur. A test called the Chunin exams. Sand ninjas named Tamari, Gaara, and Kankuro appeared. Gaara was a Jinchuriki just like himself. A fight with Kiba. Someone named Neji. Someone named Lee getting seriously injured. Konoha attacked by Orochimaru. Then a pause. The third Hokage's funeral. The vision had been constantly speeding up. Toad Sage Jiraiya. Learning the Rasengan after being neglected by Kakashi. Meeting Sasuke's brother, Itachi. Tsunade and Shizune. Sasuke wanting to fight. Sasuke leaving. A fight at a place called the Valley of the End. Blurring visions. Rescuing the Sand Shinobi Gaara from an Akatsuki member named Deidara. Another pause. Fighting Orochimaru. Another pause. Jiraiya's death. Then it all stopped completely, lingering on one vision. Konohagakure, the village hidden in leaves, was no more. In the middle of the desolate battlefield, the Hyuga girl, Hinata was her name, had just admitted to being in love with him. She rushes in, attacking a man with orange hair. Pain. The last thing shown was pain, killing Hinata. What in the? Mizuki cocked an eyebrow at the scene unfolding in front of him. Iruka turned around as well and cringed. Naruto was being pushed to his feet by bubbling red chakra. Once completely up, he hunched over, letting the giant shuriken fall from his body. The chakra began to solidify, forming ears and one long tail. Naruto, Iruka stuttered. It's still me, Iruka-sensei. Naruto's voice sounded tired, and older. His eyes, now feral and red, lingered on the ground as if holding back tears. Go. Do what you must, until it is my turn. The fox slowly laid down, panting heavily as the tail that he had gave to Naruto began to blow away as dust. Iruka looked on, both amazed and horrified. You really are a demon. Mizuki called, drawing his second giant shuriken. Naruto, get. Before Iruka could finish, Naruto had become a red blur. He was right in front of Mizuki. You're the demon, betraying the village for Orochimaru. Mizuki jumped back and threw the weapon. Naruto easily smacked it away with a chakra claw. Then he soared at the traitor. Spinning, he slammed a chakra tail into Mizuki's gut, making him plummet towards the ground. Landing on a tree for only a split second, Naruto gracefully leapt into the sky until he looked like he was floating in front of the moon. A hand above his head, he turned head first as he began to fall towards the downed Chunin. Chakra began to form and spin in his outstretched palm. Rasengan. The ground shook and wind blew out in all directions from the impact. Iruka covered his eyes as the wind blew dust up. As it cleared, he looked to see Naruto standing over an unconscious Mizuki. Naruto, he was once again cut off as Naruto coughed up blood, the wounds from earlier gushing, and then collapsed to the ground. Beyond the heart and mind, a calling far greater than foretold in legend. Will I be able to find you if I come looking? I don't know. Will you want to be found? Quote. Why then? Why did you choose us? Why make us suffer this heartbreak? Because no one else deserves to hate me. Naruto took in a deep breath, eyes opening wide. The sharp smell of medicine, alcohol, and hypodermic needles filled his lungs, making his eyes water. Oh great, he thought. Hell is an eternal hospital. Naruto, you're awake. The voice of his former teacher, Iruka greeted. Before he could even turn his head, he was being crushed in a hug by the young teacher. Okay, so I take it this isn't hell. What's going on? You've been in a coma for a week, Naruto. You haven't been hurt that bad since you were 6. Naruto's eyes dilated. Again, he thought remorsefully. How? After you knocked out Mizuki, you succumbed to your wounds. I brought you straight here. Naruto's eyes widened again. He had beat Mizuki, which meant all those things he saw. No, it couldn't be. Look, your friends brought you stuff. Iruka said, drawing Naruto's attention to the cards and gifts on the table by his bed. Wah! What? Naruto picked up a large bouquet of flowers. Those are from Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji. Ino too? Naruto asked skeptically. Yeah, she works with her parents in their flower shop. Naruto shrugged. She's never cared about me. I bet Shikamaru and Choji made her do it. Iruka frowned. Ino may have disliked Naruto in the academy, but he had seen genuine concern when she had come to drop of the flowers. He was understanding just how much the little stuff people did affected Naruto. That one must be from Kiba. Naruto chuckled. It was a large bone with bark well soon carved into it. Then Naruto unintentionally teared up. A small brown box sat on the side of the table, almost hidden by everything else. He recognized the box way too clearly for comfort. It was the healing herbs Hinata had given him during the Chunin exams. Who's that one from? He asked, only to confirm what he knew was becoming a living nightmare. That one is actually from Hinata Hyuga. She's the quiet girl that sits in the back of class all the time. Naruto slowly began to cry, making Iruka panic. Hey, Naruto, what's wrong? What was he supposed to say? Oh, nothing, just seeing the one person who could have given me the life I wanted killed in a vision of the future. Naruto instantly stopped crying and looked up blankly, mouth agape. He had seen into the future. You okay? Iruka asked, checking his temperature. I'm fine. It was more than a statement. He was completely fine. Outside of feeling ready to run around Konoha 5,000 times, that wasn't natural. But he had just realized what he was presented with. I can stop it. I can save Hinata-chan. No, I can save everyone. I can. Naruto, there's something I want to ask you. Iruka snapped him from his thoughts. Naruto shook his head and looked up. Seeing the distraught look on his former sensei's face, he knew what it was about. What happened in the forest last week? I know, Iruka-sensei. He sighed. I guess, learning about the fox so suddenly kind of made me upset, and my anger pulled me into where the fox is sealed. Then it gave me chakra to stop Mizuki. That's not good. No, it was because the fox knows if I die, it dies too. If it would have given me too much chakra, my body would have exploded and we both would have died. If it hadn't given me enough, then I probably would have bled to death before you got me here. Iruka's eyebrows scrunched. Naruto was way too nonchalant with his answers. Naruto saw the hesitation in his face and quickly decided to change the subject. Hey, Iruka-sensei, if I've been out for a week, then haven't the genin teams been picked already? Not only was this a change of subject, but if the teams turn out the way he thinks they are, then those visions were real, and he had gotten a chance that no one else probably had. Yeah, that's right. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji are a squad ironically, just like their parents. Shino Aburame, Hinata, and Kiba are on a squad too. Naruto paled and got excited all at the same time. He was scared because some creepy shit had happened to him, but excited about being given the chance to change, well, everything. Oh, and I've got a surprise for you. Iruka pulled out a small scroll and handed it to Naruto. Naruto unraveled the scroll and a seal greeted him. Biting his thumb, he ran it over the center. Iruka's eyes widened once again. Naruto, how do you know how to work that blood seal? Naruto froze. I read up on it at the library. This design looks familiar, but I don't remember from where. Naruto knew the seal because Jiraiya had given him several scrolls with the same seal. The only problem was that Naruto still didn't get why his blood worked on that certain seal and no one else's. From reading up, he did learn that blood seals were for family members only, so the seal had to have been created by one of his parents. Jiraiya had never told him who it was though. Odd, Iruka thought. Hokage-sama said this seal was from the fourth Hokage and that he had taken extra care not to let Naruto see it. So how did he know? Whoa. Hit I 8. And it's black. Wait, so this means. Yep, you're a ninja Naruto. The Hokage thought that we should reward you after stopping a traitor. Iruka was happy to see Naruto enthusiastic. Technically, it was the only thing he had done since waking up that made Iruka remember that he was still just a child. Oh, so Gigi knows about what happened. Yeah, Iruka sighed. But he understands Naruto. He actually hopes you aren't too mad with him for not telling you about the Kyuubi soon. Naruto knew he couldn't be mad. Not while knowing what could happen to the third during the Chunin exams. Oh, and you're on Team 7, along with Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka thought Naruto would have been ecstatic about being on a team with Sakura, or at least upset about being with Sasuke. Instead, all Naruto did was nod once in acknowledgement and looked out the window. Something's definitely wrong, Iruka thought to himself. Naruto on his part was thinking of the future with his team. Now 100% sure the visions were real, he knew that not one person on his team liked him at the moment. Oddly enough, Sasuke was probably the only one who'd actually have respect for him. According to his vision, Sakura was still in her extreme Sasuke fangirl stage and wouldn't be getting out of it for years, unless he did something about it. And Kakashi-sensei was going to think he was incapable of being a ninja until after the Chunin exams. Now thinking about it, it really hurt. To have the people he considered family look down on him like that. But that was just it. It hadn't happened yet. They weren't his family yet, but he had all the feelings and emotions of himself in the future. That was very large, very scary drawback. Naruto, I'm going to get going, so I'll make sure to let everyone know you're better, alright? Yeah, thanks Iruka-sensei. As Iruka left, Naruto began to think about his options. Of course he couldn't tell anyone about the future thing. They'd think he was crazy, or worse, controlled by the Kyuubi. So he had to act like he was still an ignorant genin. Okay, that wouldn't be hard, seeing as his chakra was indeed shit. He knew the only reason he was able to form a Rasengan against Mizuki was because of the fox's chakra still transferring to his body. What had Jiraiya called it in one of his vision? A cloak. The Kyuubi's veil. Something around there. Then came the question of how he was going to get strong enough to keep some of the worst things from happening. He wouldn't be meeting Jiraiya until the second stage of the Chunin exams and Kakashi was going to be a prick for a bit. Solo training it was, And lucky for him, he remembered every single last one of his techniques. Learning them with the small control he had in his 12-year-old body mass was going to suck to hell though. He wanted to change other people too though. One thing for certain, he had to get Sakura's head out of Sasuke's and fast. That was going to be a challenge. Maybe he could get Ino to become a better ninja too, that way she and her team would have a better chance at preventing Asuma's death. Neji definitely needed work, or at least a friend. Naruto was not looking forward to hearing all his rants on fate. Which brought him to his biggest concern. Hinata was the first person he needed to change. He'd be damned if he had to watch Neji hurt her again. So wait, what's the first thing we did? Naruto thought back. Then he slyly grinned. The bell test, if Kakashi-sensei hasn't done it already. And I know the perfect way to pass it. He chuckled evilly, a fox grin on his face as he remembered the second time he had taken that test along with Sakura. Now all that's left is to make a clone and sneak out of here. Naruto flared one hand sign. Downstairs, a receptionist was enjoying the quiet day in Konoha. The sun was shining and she had just gotten a visit from her mercenary sister, Nani Aiko. Things were going very well that day, and she knew her luck wasn't that good. With that thought, the building began to tremble. She held her head and sighed. She loved Naruto, but one of those days, she was going to be the one to put him in the hospital. That was her only thought before an ocean of clones flooded the building. Okay, that didn't go as planned. I knew my control was fucked, but that's just ridiculous. Naruto had slipped out, using his clone ocean as cover. He sighed as he looked around the village. Everyone who looked at him was scowling, as if he were some disease-infected mutt. Some of the faces he recognized from his vision but none of real significance. A feeling of dread seemed to settle on him. Up until then, he was able to deal with the hatred, at least slightly. But thanks to that glimpse into the future, he knew what happiness and contentment felt like. Now he felt like he would be working to achieve that goal all over again. It didn't feel like he saw into the future. It felt like he had been sent into the past. The only difference, however, was that he didn't know what was absolute, and what was transient. With his head down, but senses up, he began to run towards his apartment. His hearing was sharper. It must have been from the Kyuubi's chakra. He was a bit faster too, nothing dramatic though. He felt a tingle at the back of his skull. Preternatural sense. He could literally feel the rhythmic beats of people's hearts. Faintly, their emotions were portrayed. However, it was only for a moment, as if only happening while he was dreaming. Looking up, he found that he had made it home. That was interesting, he thought as he prepared to open his door. He stopped, hand outstretched only inches from the door. Written in red paint on his door was, "Stay dead, demon." Naruto swallowed a lump in his throat. That one actually hurt. Looking at the ground, he blindly opened the door. He accidentally gripped the knob too hard and crushed it. Shit, the fox's chakra must have just finished integrating. This is going to be bad. Going into his room, he took a quick glance around. He chuckled, remembering the first time Sakura had come in. She had seen a cockroach, then tripped and fell into a bowl of who knows what. Scratch that, that never happened. Naruto held his head in frustration. His present was still going. It made him wish he could just jump into those visions, into the future. But of course, time travel was impossible, or was it? Kami had played a cruel joke on him. Like a parent showing a child a present they really wanted, but not allowing them to play with it until Christmas. He flopped onto his bed, only to grimace and lean back up. A strand of something gooey and sticky connected his bed and back. Yeah, no more procrastinating, I really need to clean this place up. Iruka knocked on the door to the office of the third, a tired expression adorning his face. Things were about to get complicated, he knew, and he didn't want any more headaches. Receiving permission to enter, Iruka slunk into the office, being greeted with an extra visitor. Iruka rose an eyebrow. Iruka, Kakashi, I wish to apologize for calling you on such short notice. Both men nodded. I've already explained things to Iruka, but I'm sure you already know that this involves Naruto, am I right, Kakashi? Yes, sir. Kakashi replied stoically. Also, forgive me for having you deceive Naruto Iruka, however, we don't want him in a fragile state of mind. I understand, Hokage-sama. And he's awakened already. If I know Naruto, he's probably escaped from the hospital already. Iruka chuckled. The Hokage smirked, but Kakashi just seemed uninterested. Is there something on your mind, Kakashi? The third asked, leaning back with his pipe. Just awaiting your orders, Lord Hokage. Iruka frowned. Kakashi wasn't one to look at Naruto and only see the 9 tails, but after last week, he wasn't so sure. Very well then. The Hokage cleared his throat. Because of the incident involving Mizuki, we have confirmed that the 9-tailed fox is awakening inside of Naruto, and much quicker than we anticipated. From Iruka's report, I don't think it will have much of an effect on Naruto at the moment, however, because he was able to talk to the demon, he will be needing constant surveillance. Surveillance? Don't you think that goes against Naruto's trust? Iruka argued. The safety of the village is more important than the privacy of a child. Kakashi stated, not even glancing at him. I have taken deep consideration of this matter, Iruka. I have only chosen you and Kakashi for the job. Iruka couldn't reply and sighed. He was the one that had to lie to Naruto and tell him everything was alright, and now he had to spy on him for any signs of the Kyuubi. If Naruto ever found out, Iruka knew he would never trust anyone ever again. But even the third knew of that risk, and was willing to take it. No matter how much he cared for Naruto, the safety of Konoha was priority. So what do we do now? Iruka asked dejectedly. Naruto hasn't met his new team yet. Why don't you go introduce them, Kakashi? Right away, sir. The masked Jonin disappeared in a puff of smoke. I understand your concerns for Naruto, Iruka, but this is a matter dealing with the Kyuubi and I cannot afford to take any chances. You know this very well. Yeah, I do, Iruka stated coldly, the scar on his face reflecting his darkening mood. Naruto looked around his apartment, sleeves rolled up and mop in his hand. Everything was sparkling. Sheesh, this is what I put my clones through when I have them clean up. No wonder they're so rude sometimes. He smirked to himself. Regardless of that thought, he felt pretty damn good for someone who had a hole in them a week ago and was in a coma until that morning. As he went to lay back down, a knock sounded at his door. Won't be ashamed to let anyone in here anymore. He happily opened the door with a, "Hey, how's it?" He froze, slowly looking up into the lazy eye of Konoha's copycat ninja. Creepy Cyclops. A quick, instant second release of ki was followed by Kakashi's eye smile. How's it going? I'm Kakashi Hatake, your Jonin instructor. Sweet. I have a Cyclops as a sensei. Another release of ki. No, Naruto, I'm not a Cyclops. Then why is your eye covered? That's a secret. Then why do you have a mask? That's also a secret. And why, Naruto, do you want to go on a mission? Hell yeah. Your first mission is to get to Training Ground 7 without saying a single word. Think you can do it? Of course. I mean, he nodded. Then he darted off towards the training ground. Kakashi lazily glanced as the blonde ran. He'll never make it to the main road silently. As soon as Kakashi thought that, Naruto screamed. I think I laid it on too thick. Naruto thought as he jogged towards the training ground. Smirking, he threw his head back and howled. Okay, now I laid it on too thick. He was only trying to keep himself occupied. If he didn't, then he'd start thinking about the future, and he really didn't feel like being depressed at the moment. Besides, he needed training, and what better way to do it than to mooch? Technically, he didn't actually need Kakashi to teach him anything. He just needed tips. He arrived at the training ground and found both Sakura and Sasuke waiting. Oh great, Naruto's here. He heard Sakura sarcastically call. He knew that was going to get old, real quick. As he expected, Sasuke ignored them both altogether. Naruto kept his smile, only to look the part but didn't speak to either one of them. Sakura breaking down and Sasuke leaving the village were both all too vivid in his mind. Instead, he walked over to a tree, kicked it, and caught a falling leaf. "What are you doing, Dobi?" Sasuke asked, only interested in the fact that Naruto didn't latch onto Sakura like a security blanket. "I'm going to practice chakra control until sensei arrives." "Baka. He could show up at any minute." Sakura yelled. "Not likely," Naruto thought. Sasuke stared a few seconds as Naruto put the leaf on his forehead and took a meditative stance. Only 2 seconds in and the leaf blew to pieces. "Damn it," Naruto shouted. "That's one of the easiest exercises ever. You can't do anything, can you?" Sakura snickered. Sasuke walked over and sat down next to Naruto, putting a leer on his forehead. The leaf stayed in place. Naruto huffed. "Nobody asked you to do it." Sasuke smirked. "Calm down. That's why you can't do it." Naruto blinked. Did Sasuke just give him advice? Okay. Now that had never happened in his visions. Maybe it was because Naruto hadn't rushed into the field all obnoxiously. Could little things like that really change the future? "Try it again," Sasuke said, still holding his own leaf. Naruto nodded and picked up Anther 1. Placing it on his forehead, he relaxed. "I should have done this a while ago." He began to meditate like he had done when training for Toad Sage mode. The leaf seemed to be vibrating, but it stayed in place. "I can feel that you're still putting way too much chakra into it, but at least you're getting the hang of it." Sakura stared slack-jawed at the scene. For some reason her brain couldn't really process her Sasuke-kun and being nice to Naruto in the same sentence. "Don't think this means I like you or anything. I just don't want anyone slowing us down on missions." Naruto smirked. That was most likely a partially true statement. He knew Sasuke was still arrogant and had his Uchiha pride on full display. Maybe he was enjoying the fact that he had to teach Naruto something so remedial. It didn't matter. At least it was a change from the Uchiha being openly snobbish. "You're releasing your chakra too fast." Naruto's eyes widened, making the leaf burst into pieces again. "Okay. Now that one was really unexpected." "Wah. What did you say, Sakura-chan?" "Baka. Don't make me repeat myself. Slow down your chakra flow and it'll be easier. Not just for the leaf, but in control altogether. Mizuki-sensei taught us that, remember?" Naruto looked down and Sakura clasped her hands over her mouth. "Naruto, I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "It's fine. Thanks for the advice, Sakura-chan." He once again grabbed a leaf and took his Toad Sage meditative position. He took in a deep breath and began to expel chakra. The leaf stayed in place. Wow. He did it in one try. I didn't know Naruto was a fast learner. Sakura thought, a little proud that her advice had worked. "Keep going and in about 200 years you'll be able to give me a challenge." Sasuke called, laying back and relaxing. "Not even then, Sasuke-kun," Sakura declared. Naruto smirked. What he had just experienced with his team was unique, even if it only lasted a few minutes. For a second, Naruto thought he had presumptuously judged the two, but as of now, only time would tell. He was able to practice the unswayed leaf technique for another hour, Sakura and Sasuke throwing in advice here and there. Kakashi arrived, seeming more happy than he was earlier. Naruto looked in his hand and saw a different book. Ero Sennin's book came out today. "This is perfect," Naruto thought deviously. "Kakashi-sensei, you're late," Sakura yelled. After a few seconds of silence, everyone looked at Naruto. He rose an eyebrow. "What? I got something on my face?" he asked. No, it's just." Sakura didn't know what she was trying to say. "I think she expected you to yell too." "It's weird," Sasuke admitted. Naruto cursed. He had yelled the first time Kakashi showed up late. This time didn't look like it had a positive effect, seeing as the three had gotten a little suspicious. On the other hand, Sasuke looked at Naruto and actually didn't see a loser, completely. At least he seemed like he was going to take being a ninja seriously. Sakura scratched her head. She had been around Naruto for over an hour and hadn't hit him, nor had the urge to kill him once. He hadn't been begging her to go out on a date or anything. Her fists were actually feeling pretty soft for once. She wondered what was making him act so refined. Kakashi eyed Naruto, slightly suspicious of his behavior. But, if Naruto was being calm, that meant he wouldn't distract him while he read Ika Ika Oasis, the fifth installment of the series. In the last book, Ika Ika Desertion, the main character had found out his sister was kidnapped by the woman he loved, and he had to get information. Oi, Kakashi-sensei, snap out of it. Naruto called, waving a hand in the Jonin's face. If our teacher spaces out like that, we're done for on the field. Sakura groaned. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Kakashi ignored the comments and I smiled. Alright, since Naruto was the only one not here with us, he's going to be the only one to introduce himself. That was just an excuse to quickly get back to reading his book in privacy. Go on, Naruto. State your name, hobbies, likes and dislikes, and goals for the future. Naruto faced his team. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. My hobbies are training and meditating. I like Ichiraku's ramen only, people who don't judge others without getting to know them, Hina. My dislikes are people who only see the frame instead of the picture. My goals for the future, to become the greatest Hokage and protect everyone from anything that could ever happen. All three looked wide-eyed at the blonde shinobi. That wasn't what they had expected at all. Sakura looked down, feeling guilty about her declaration several days ago. My name is Haruno Sakura. My hobbies are reading and shopping. I like Sasuke-kun and Ino Pig when she's not being a jerk. My dislikes are Naruto Baka. My goals for the future are to become a great medical ninja and, looks at Sasuke and giggles. She didn't know if it was too soon to start seeing Naruto differently, but she did know there was much more to him than she had initially thought. People who only see the frame instead of the picture. Well, that was interesting. Okay, now that we're all acquainted, time to destroy your confidence. Huh, all three genin rose an eyebrow. You're not really ninjas yet. Kakashi stated cheerfully. What do you mean we're not ninjas? Sakura shouted. Naruto just folded his arms, knowing where this was going. The academy test was only to weed out those who have no potential as a ninja whatsoever. We Jonin give the real test to determine which of the passing teams are ready to begin their duties as shinobi or not. So, tomorrow you guys should prepare for happy fun time. Meet back here at 6 a.m. sharp, and don't eat anything or you're most definitely going to vomit. The silver-haired Jonin gave a half-hearted salute and then vanished. Sakura looked horrified while Sasuke had a pensive look on his face. Naruto held in his laughter. Kakashi-sensei is a great actor. He walked back over to the tree and began to practice the unswayed leaf technique once more, now with leaves on his forehead and the bottom of his palms. You're going to practice all chakra control? Sakura asked. Yep. If I don't get better at control, I can't remember, learn any cool new jutsu that Kakashi-sensei may teach us. Naruto rolled his eyes at the end of the sentence. As if that lazy bastard is gonna teach us much of anything. Sasuke turned and began walking away. Sakura ran after him without hesitation. I understand Sasuke's not as bad as he's going to turn out to be, and it might be harder because of this, but I still need to pull Sakura away from him, even if just a little each day. Naruto dropped the thought. He needed complete focus if he wanted to improve his chakra control in a timely fashion. Knowing discipline from training with toads, Naruto was able to sit perfectly still until night had fallen. He hadn't moved in 6 hours. Amazing. Naruto's eyes shot open and he was once again looking at his teammates. Sakura was smiling, being the one who had yelled. Sasuke only held a smirk on his face. I hate to admit it, but that is impressive. For Adobe. What's that supposed to mean, Tem? Naruto retorted, standing. It's a compliment, Baka. We came back a few times to see if you were still here after I came back to get my scarf. You didn't move at all, did you? Sakura seemed a little too excited. No. Why? That means you have potential to get better. You won't be dead weight after all. Naruto didn't know whether to be insulted or gratified. Coming from Sakura at this point, he might as well be gratified. Being able to perform a chakra control exercise for long periods of time, even that one, means you've mastered it. Your control should be at least a little above a normal academy student by now. Great, so I'm at least better than Konohamaru and everyone else that didn't graduate from the academy. He thought sarcastically. Well, if his control was past academy level, that meant he could probably make a few solid bunshins. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A poof of smoke appeared next to Naruto and outstepped 4 perfect clones. Good job, Naruto. Sakura congratulated him. Naruto looked at the clone, finally looking at himself. The whisker marks on his cheeks were a little darker and his hair seemed a tad bit spikier. Maybe even a little longer too. In honesty, he looked a few months older, though it wasn't too noticeable. Too bad it did nothing to his height. Now that I think about it, what happened to the fox? I haven't heard from it since. I got its tail. Great, now I have to add see the fox to my agenda. But first, time to break out some of Jiraiya Sensei's old training techniques. By tomorrow, I'll be back at Chunin exam strength. Then, maybe I'll be able to stop Orochimaru from killing the third. Just wait, Uzumaki Naruto is going to change history. After everything we've been through, you're just going to throw it away. I'll never throw it away. My future, my past, I'll take it all with me. And what will we have? What will you leave us? Quote. You said that no matter what happened we could always call on you. You said you'd be here for us, forever. Quote. Forever is eternity. I will be there for you, all of you, for all eternity. Okay, because of the circumstances that prevented me from posting this chapter sooner, I'm going to give a sneak peek at the next chapter of Day by Day. So I see that all 3 of you decided to take the evaluation. But there is one more catch though. You have 2 choices. You can forfeit right now and go back to the academy to try and become ninja next year. He paused for dramatic build-up, watching the 3 pre-teens' faces show no sign of quitting. Or if you take this test and fail, you will be denied entrance into the Konohagakure Shinobi Corps forever. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened in horror. Naruto stared blankly ahead. If he was right, then no one would say anything. However, some things had already changed. He didn't know what to expect at the moment. A quick glance at his teammates gave him his answer. Sasuke looked disgruntled, but Naruto knew his Uchiha pride would never let him back down. Sakura, however, looked a bit too nervous. Naruto's worst fears came to life as he saw her swallow and begin speaking. Kakashi-sensei, I think we should resign until next year. Naruto isn't ready for this yet. So what did you think of Naruto? Iruka asked his gray-haired friend, leaning on the side of the Hokage building. He had awaited Kakashi's arrival so they could enter the building together. Hello to you too, Iruka-san. The Jonin greeted lazily and put away the Ika book. Actually, it wasn't at all what I expected. He seemed mature, much more than he was a few weeks ago, or yesterday morning for that matter. How so? Iruka asked, raising an eyebrow as they entered the building. It's a possibility that something happened between his trip from his apartment to the training ground, but I'm guessing he's just showing how good of an actor he is. He explained everything that had happened the day prior, from Naruto's apartment to dismissing them at the training ground. Iruka listened, nodding his head at several comments. Naruto has been acting strange lately, but so far it doesn't seem for the worse. He hasn't done anything much differently than usual either. It wasn't just because of that. Kakashi continued. When he first opened the door, I saw the same goofy prankster that we're used to. But once he saw me, his eyes changed. It was only for a split second, but I saw so much. They were still the eyes of an adolescent, but one that had seen bloodshed, had known carnage and pain, and even war. Grief, satisfaction, Everything except love was there. And I saw it without even using my Sharingan. Kakashi felt a chill down his spine. But they weren't the eyes of the Kyuubi. I still felt warmth in those eyes. Kakashi had felt more than warmth. He felt accusations, but he didn't know of what. Even more confusing, he felt forgiveness. In any case, I feel that nothing's wrong at all. Iruka stated obviously, making the copycat nin narrow his eyes. Then he sighed. I suppose you're right. Maybe he's just trying to cope with the knowledge of the Kyuubi. Which is pretty much what you want me to say to the Hokage, right? I just think that a little more observation is needed before we can really say anything that will affect Naruto's future. For a split second, Iruka felt weird saying that. He didn't know why, but it felt like he had gone lightheaded for a second. You're right. Besides, it'd be far too troublesome to fill out all the paperwork that would come with it. You've been hanging around Shikaku Nara a little too much, Iruka said with a chuckle as they both entered the third's office. Training grounds. Okay. Not what I expected to see early in the morning. Naruto rubbed his eyes as he entered the training grounds, seeing Sasuke helping Sakura with kunai target practice. Is it me, or has Sasuke been in a good mood for the past 2 days? Hey Naruto, Sakura called waving. Naruto winced and held his head as a sudden migraine struck him. Just one little lapse of judgment and they're acting like jerks again. Naruto stood confused for a second. Was that another vision? It was fuzzy this time though. And he hadn't seen it originally. You okay, Dobi? Sasuke asked, Sakura actually looking concerned as well. Yeah, I guess. He walked over and sat under a tree. Maybe all that training last night wore me out. All what training? Sakura asked curiously. I started a new training regimen last night. I was up until 4 trying it out. You shouldn't have done that. What if you're too tired for the test now? Sakura scolded, but not as harsh as usual. No problem, I feel fine. Besides, I can just take a quick nap now before Kakashi-sensei shows up. What if he comes while you're sleeping? Sasuke asked, actually thinking of doing the same thing. I have a hunch that yesterday is going to be a repeating factor. As Naruto said, Kakashi showed up an hour later, and by then, all 3 genin had got in an extra 45 minutes of sleep. The masked nin looked over his team, seeing all 3 with confident smirks. So I see that all 3 of you decided to take the evaluation. But there is one more catch though. You have 2 choices. You can forfeit right now and go back to the academy to try and become ninja next year. He paused for dramatic build-up, watching the 3 pre-teens' faces show now sign of quitting. Or if you take this test and fail, you will be denied entrance into the Konohagakure Shinobi Corps forever. Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened in horror. Naruto stared blankly ahead. If he was right, then no one would say anything. However, some things had already changed. He didn't know what to expect at the moment. A quick glance at his teammates gave him his answer. Sasuke looked disgruntled, but Naruto knew his Uchiha pride would never let him back down. Sakura, however, looked a bit too nervous. Naruto's fears came to life as he saw her swallow and begin speaking. Kakashi-sensei, I think we should resign until next year. Naruto isn't ready for this yet. Sasuke's eyes grew wide, and out of sheer desperation, he did the unthinkable, showed emotion. That's bullshit. Naruto's ready, and so are we. He screamed passionately. The group grew silent, both Naruto and Sakura's jaw hitting the ground as they stared at the raven-haired boy. A tiny blush crossed Sasuke's face and he folded his arms, turning away. Just saying, he murmured. After the shock subsided, Sakura tried to put together a coherent sentence. But, Sasuke-kun. Sakura-chan. Naruto spoke up, eyes on the ground and fist clenched. Last night, didn't you say that I wouldn't be dead weight? Sakura paused. I meant, she wanted to say in the future but for some reason she couldn't. For one, she knew it wasn't true, and after hearing the conviction in Naruto's voice, knew he was ready. Her love for Sasuke, and always comparing people to him made Naruto seem weak in her eyes again, and now she was regretting it. Well, whatever. Seeing as none of you quit, it's time to start the exercise. Kakashi spoke nonchalantly. The three genin tensed, and Naruto gritted his teeth. I wanted to show off a little before trying to implement the plan, but maybe now that they think I'm the weakest again, I can use this to get out of suspicion with Kakashi-sensei. The way he keeps glaring at me makes it obvious to see that he knows something is up. Besides, I don't have a second to waste, let alone a year. Kakashi explained the test, Naruto sighing in relief that it was the same bell test as before. He knew they wouldn't actually have to get the bells to pass, but it would be a good achievement if they could. From the training regimens that Naruto had done the night before, he knew that he was almost at his strength when he beat Neji, but not quite. He wanted to be able to do it without having to feel like he needed the fox. As it was, he had found out that he couldn't activate the fox's chakra anymore anyway, but by the way his body felt, he was running on one tail of chakra, constantly. That meant that the fox was now an 8-tailed Biju, and he was now in the training process to become naturally as strong as he was when he faced Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Are you three ready? Kakashi asked, the bells dangling on his side but his book still in hand. Naruto's eyes widened. Something in his mind was telling him to move. He didn't want to, but it was like his feet were starting to pull forward on their own. Naruto suddenly rushed at Kakashi and threw a kick. The Jonin easily ducked, blocked the next one, and then twisted his arm as he threw a punch. Naruto, haven't you heard the term, only fools rush in? Kakashi was holding a kunai to his back. I didn't say start yet. Naruto, you baka. I knew you were still an idiot. What if Kakashi-sensei failed us for that stunt? Sakura yelled, inner Sakura screaming agreement. Sasuke sighed. Once Adobe, always Adobe. Just one little lapse of judgment and they're acting like jerks again, wait. That's what my vision was. But, then that means I had a vision of the altered future. What the hell is going on here? Some things just aren't meant to change, a voice whispered out of nowhere. What? Who said that? No reply came, and Naruto was left to ponder the statement. Okay, so if it's alright with Naruto, we can begin, now. Kakashi released Naruto, who jumped back with his team, all spreading out and hiding in bushes. Tactical, for Genin, but not going to help if their plans collide. Kakashi thought. He was right as well, as several attempts from each Genin seemed to thwart one another. Naruto was letting some time pass to make it easier to sway Sasuke and Sakura. From all the failed attempts, their morale would be down. He was also avoiding Kakashi's 1,000 years of pain. After Sakura's kunai were intercepted by Sasuke's fireballs for the third time, Naruto began to think of how to make his move. Alright, let's see. He could sense Sakura's chakra several yards away and moving swiftly in one direction towards Kakashi. This must be when he puts her in that genjutsu. Sensing around even more, he felt Sasuke sitting in a tree, obviously overlooking the two. Give him a show, I guess. Naruto dashed in the direction Sakura was going, moving much swifter than a genin should have been able to. He reached her moments before a battered and bloody Sasuke came out of the bushes. Her eyes dilated but Naruto only glared, coming up behind her. Oh no. Sasuke-kun. She wailed and was about to pass out until. Sakura-chan, get a hold of yourself. Naruto shouted loudly. Sakura. Naruto. Help. Me. Sasuke reached out to them. Sakura didn't pass out due to Naruto's yell, and prepared to run to him. Kai. Naruto called and the Sasuke vanished. Sakura stopped in her tracks. Wah, a genjutsu, she said looking around. Of course it was. How come you didn't notice that Sakura-chan? He was actually accusing her but made it sound like he honestly wanted to know. Sakura blushed, and scratched the back of her head. That's because. I knew, but, I was going to trick Kakashi-sensei. Yeah, that's it. She chuckled nervously. Fall for it, please. She thought in her mind, not wanting to be laughed at by Naruto of all people. Sure. Come on. Let's find the real Sasuke. I think I have a plan. Oh, and Sakura, behind you. Sakura was going to ask what type of plan could he possibly think of, however, Kakashi loomed over the rose-haired girl. She turned around slowly, and looked up at her sensei. How are you doing, Sakura? He asked politely. Haha, fine. She stuttered, absolutely scared shitless that her sensei was able to sneak up on her without a single sound. Oh, for the love of. Naruto rolled his eyes and created a clone, sending it rushing at the two. It jumped over Sakura's head and kicked Kakashi in the face just as Naruto ran up and scooped Sakura into his arms and began to head towards where Sasuke was watching. What the hell do you think you're doing? Put me down, she yelled, bopping him on the head. As she rose her fist to hit him again, a loud explosion sounded behind them and wind blew around the area. Her eyes widened as she glanced back. So, she began. That Kakashi-sensei was a clone. Naruto nodded, and said clone just exploded. One more nod. Oh, she paused. Then she fainted in his arms. Naruto reached Sasuke, setting Sakura down gently at the base of the tree. Sasuke dropped down next to them. How do you know that was a clone of Kakashi-sensei? He immediately asked. Naruto had already thought of the excuse, but could only hope Sasuke would fall for it. I didn't. I just wanted to hold Sakura-chan and that was the perfect chance. He threw in a chuckle at the end to make it seem legit. Sasuke only narrowed his eyes at him before dismissing it with a, HMPH. Hey, but I do have a plan, but it's going to take all three of us. You have a plan. Sasuke was about to make a snide remark until he remembered the day Naruto tied him up and then hanged into him to try to get a kiss from Sakura. Better to go along with it. But he would get revenge for that later. What do you have in mind? Naruto's fox smile gave Sasuke shivers. Alright, wake Sakura-chan up and. Kakashi sat in one of the trees of the forest, still reading his beloved Ika Ika Oasis. The main character was about to enter the portal that lead to a hidden oasis where his sexy little sister was being held captive. He looked up momentarily. It's gotten quiet. What are they? He dodged out the way as several kunai struck the tree where he had currently been sitting. As he touched the ground, his eyes widened as he came face to face with Sasuke. Kaden. Gukaku no Jutsu. Sasuke intentionally fired the large flame slightly towards Kakashi's left. He smirked as he saw Kakashi jump right. Bingo. Kakashi landed right on a vine trip wire. Eye blankly white, he looked up. I never thought I'd say this, but. He used substitution with a stray log several feet away just as a giant boulder slammed down where he had tripped the trap. These kids are gonna kill me. I have you now, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura's voice echoed above. Sakura stood on a tall tree branch, brandishing one last kunai. She launched it, but Kakashi was able to simply step aside. Nice try, Sakura. It's not over yet, she called, sticking her tongue out at him. The kunai she had thrown puffed into smoke, revealing Naruto. He threw another kunai behind Kakashi. The Jonin looked back and saw the kunai aimed too high to hit the string of the bells. He would congratulate them on effort, but their plot was all for. The kunai Naruto had thrown also puffed into smoke, revealing the real Naruto. He was right above Kakashi in an aerial somersault. In midair, he snatched the book right out of Kakashi's hand. Thunder crashed immediately. Kakashi's eye was ghostly white. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood in the tree, book open. Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke. It would be very wise of you to give that back, right now. Kakashi's ki was tearing through the area, however, Naruto was subtly releasing his own to shield Sasuke and Sakura. Hey, Ika Ika Oasis. Isn't this the one we read last night? Naruto started. Oh yeah, Sakura exclaimed. The one where in the end, the little sister is at the oasis being forced to. No. Don't spoil the ending, Kakashi yelled. But don't you think it was amazing that the brother was the one to Sasuke's voice was cut off as Kakashi put his hands over his ears. Oh no, I can still read his lips. Kakashi closed his eye tight. After several seconds, he opened them. The three stood right in front of him, Sakura in the middle holding the bells. Wha. But, looks like we win, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura giggled, sticking her tongue out at him again. Kakashi stared wide-eyed at the three as they celebrated their victory amongst each other. His sweat dropped, and before anything else, he snatched the book back from Naruto. Well, even though you didn't actually have to get the bells, you all pass. What? We didn't have to get the bells? Sakura asked. The objective of this training was purely teamwork. Our squads are made up of a 3-genin cell and their jonin captain. If you had to work individually, we'd have no point of a team, and you'd all be chunin or jonin. If a cell can't function properly together, then they will eventually die, and soon, the village loses protection. Once the protection is gone, the village falls, and as you can see, that hasn't happened yet. What if a team has a liability? Sasuke threw in, making Naruto wince. Some things just aren't meant to change. Listen carefully. If you're on a mission to recover stolen documents vital to the village, what would you do after you've recovered them? Bring them back here, of course. Sakura stated the obvious answer. Now what if the weakest member of your team is injured and unable to continue on his or her own? Leave them and finish the mission. Send back help after the job is done. Sasuke answered, confident in his answer. If that had been my evaluation, you would have failed. By then, the enemy could have captured, interrogated, and killed your comrade. As well, our shinobis are just as vital to the village as any document. Documents can be replaced, but human life cannot. Not only could the enemy find out what's on the document at a later date, but they could also find out even more information by torturing your forgotten comrade. Remember this well. Those who disobey orders are trash. But those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. He seems more serious than I remember. Maybe because we proved ourselves even more this time by actually getting the bells. Naruto shrugged the thought off. Afterwards, Kakashi informed them that they would be receiving their first real mission in 2 days. They were dismissed, Sasuke walking away instantly. Then, something else weird occurred. Sakura stopped just before she was about to follow Sasuke. She glanced back at Naruto, whom was looking up at the sky with his hands in his pockets. He thought of that whole plan, and he saved me when Kakashi-sensei was using genjutsu. And when he created that clone. Looking closer, she saw a tear in Naruto's eye. Maybe. Sakura once again found herself at a lose for words. Instead she shook her head and ran down the path after Sasuke. After he knew that she was gone, Naruto began to walk along slowly. I wonder what that was about. He sighed. 2 days, huh? Plenty of time for training, but maybe I should get a move on. The next big things that happens is. A flash of Haku and Zabuza enters his mind. What should I do then? I know I can beat Haku, and probably talk him into coming with us, but what about Zabuza? He'll cut me clean in two if I come near him. Naruto passed the thought up, hoping that by the time they get the mission, he'd be able to fairly, or at least, almost fairly fight the barbaric swordsman. Maybe I can find Hinata-chan. I can sense her chakra somewhere near here, over there. Naruto looked towards a tree surrounded by thick bushes. His sharp hearing picked up on a faint eep. Hinata hid behind the tree, heart racing. She swallowed the lump that had formed in her throat and took deep breaths. Oh my. Did Naruto-kun see me? She slowly peered from behind the tree again. He's gone. Where did he? Whatcha doing, Hinata-chan? Naruto called behind her. Hinata eeped again, spun around and tripped backwards out of the bushes. When did he get behind me? And did he call me? You okay, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked, offering the tomato-faced princess a hand. He did it again. This better not be Kiba playing a prank. Hinata thought and closed her eyes, putting her hands together in the ram hand seal. Kai, she called. Naruto chuckled. This isn't a genjutsu, Hinata-chan. Come on, get up. Hinata opened her eyes and her face couldn't be any more red. Kids these days. Have you no shame? Doing it in the bushes too. An old lady said as she walked by. Everyone's doing it. Boys are doing it with girls. Girls are doing it with other girls. Some people even get into groups and do it. Ahem. Naruto cleared his throat, now blushing as bad as Hinata. The two old people shrugged and walked away. Hinata took Naruto's hand, forcing herself to stay conscious. Arigato, Naruto-kun. What are you doing? Actually, I was hoping to find someone to train with me for the rest of today. Are you free? He asked hopefully. Hinata's heart skipped a beat. Naruto-kun wants me to train with him. What do I say? Naruto saw Hinata space out and chuckled, waiting patiently. After a moment, Hinata took a breath and turned to him. She bowed. It would be a great honor to train with you, Naruto-kun. She spat out without a stutter. Naruto's eyes widened in astonishment. Holy cow, that's the second complete sentence I've ever heard her put together. He paused again. First, he corrected himself sadly. The first sentence that he was referring to was when she had admitted her love for him in the future. Tears welled in his eyes again. Why was this future thing so frustrating? Yeah, he had seen into the future, but every experience he went through was fresh to him. No matter what he thought he knew, it all could be altered, and not just by his efforts. Hinata gasped and touched his cheek. Naruto-kun, is everything alright? She asked, starting to blush again from the physical contact. Why yeah, come on Hinata-chan, we can practice at my place since I cleaned up. Naruto started to run towards his house, slowly stopping after he saw that Hinata wasn't following. Looking back, he found the Hyuga heiress passed out on the ground. Maybe I should have thought that one through. Elsewhere, Sakura walked silently towards her own home. She had lost Sasuke, as usual, and was left to sulk. But this time, she wasn't completely sulking over losing Sasuke. Naruto, what's wrong with this picture? How come he's the dead last, but it doesn't feel like it anymore? She reached her house and went silently straight to her room. Laying in bed, she buried her face in her pillow. Sasuke-kun, what am I doing? Why won't you carry me like Naruto did? She wondered. Then she began to think of that one moment. The way Naruto held her without a second thought, and even when she hit him, he never dropped her nor scolded her. That was nice of him. He didn't have to put up with me after I hit him. She thought even more, back at the academy. It seems so weird, he's nothing like he was back then. No, that's not true. Her eyes began to water. He always was that nice. And he's determined too. She rolled over, looking up at her ceiling. The blank roof seemed transient, and she felt as if she was able to look into the sky. Sky blue eyes. A blush crossed her face and she didn't try to deny it. Even if just slightly. Even if just remotely. Even if just for the moment. She was falling for Naruto. The night embraced him like a warm blanket, sending small pockets of air every now and then to balance the heat and cold. The orchestral chirp of crickets and the sound of thousands of leaves swaying together created a relaxing tempo. He lay on the ground, gazing up at the moon, and the small blades of grass tickling his ears. His inertia was the future, and his presence was the force. With nothing but time to think at the moment, he wanted to be able to twist the heavens, move the moon, anything. But nothing he did seemed to change in the way he wanted. Naruto-kun, are you alright? The soft voice of Hinata Hyuga called to him, piercing through his transcending melancholy. He smiled at the girl that sat next to him. I'm fine, he replied. Hinata blushed and hugged her knees to herself even tighter. Naruto thought she looked adorable. Thinking about it, almost everything she did was cute. Earlier that day, he had to carry her to his apartment, and wait for her to awaken. On Hinata's part, she accidentally mumbled words she regretted when she awoke. What a wonderful dream. My Naruto-kun is in my room. The Hyuga princess mumbled, wiping her eyes. Naruto blushed deeply, having entered the room while she was awaking. Upon realizing that she wasn't in her own room, and the fact that she wasn't dreaming, the heiress promptly proceeded to faint again, until she felt a hand behind her back. Naruto was holding her up so she wouldn't pass out again. Come on, Hinata-chan, if you faint on me again we'll never get to train together. The red-faced princess could only hold her breath and nod at the close proximity of her secret love. It took a while, but Hinata slowly began to grow a bit more comfortable around Naruto. At first, it was only because she couldn't believe how clean his apartment was. Then she almost fainted again at realizing that she really was in Naruto's apartment. After a makeshift tour of his home, Naruto treated Hinata to his own homemade ramen, courtesy of Chef Ayame Ichiraku, before they decided to head out. They trained together for the rest of the day, Hinata practicing the traditional Juken and Naruto increasing all around. So after a long day of nothing but fruitful sparring and companionship, Naruto decided to actually get to know the starry-eyed girl better. Hinata-chan, this was fun and all, but it doesn't really feel right. The blonde teen stated honestly. His gaze never left the overhead canopy of the outlining forest, nor the slightly blending beauty it held with the night sky. His gaze drifted to the moon and it brought a smirk to his face. It reminded him of Hinata's eyes. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Aren't we sparring partners? She asked, only slightly realizing the way it sounded. It was only then when she realized what Naruto meant. Well, we're friends, aren't we? I mean, today we just randomly decided to spar together. We didn't even really talk, not even in the academy. Like, what do you want to do when you're older, and what about your family? He asked this all while still gazing at the moon. It was funny. He didn't remember doing stuff like this in his visions. Maybe because he did honestly have to be more refined. I guess we kind of got caught up in the moment. Hinata said and tried to smile to ease the tension that was slowly building. It worked, as she noticed Naruto visibly relax, and close his eyes. Well, I guess what I want to do in the future is become a great kunoichi. I want to be able to protect my friends and family, and prove to everyone that I'm a capable ninja. She blushed, leaving out the part where she hoped he would be in her future as well. That's weird, Naruto stated nonchalantly, making the Hyuga heiress pale, and tears well in her eyes. I already think you are a great and capable kunoichi, he said, glancing at her out the corner of his eye, fully aware of what the statement would do to the girl. He wanted to take it slow, but he sure in the hell wasn't going to let Hinata get away. They could be friends for a while, but sooner or later, he wanted to make her his. That way, Pain wouldn't be able to. Arigato, Naruto-kun. It's getting late. Maybe we should head back, she suggested. Naruto frowned but agreed anyway. He hadn't learned anything about her, at least, not anything that he didn't already know. Wait, Hinata-chan, there's something else. Naruto leaned onto his elbows. You use the Juken really well, but it's too rigid of a taijutsu for you. Hinata pouted in confusion. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? It's the only taijutsu that my clan uses. Naruto remembered the newer techniques that Hinata had used in the future, and some of the ones that she had created herself. He knew that she would eventually have a sweet affinity which would most likely lead to her developing such new skills. Then be different. Do you already know your elemental affinity? Hinata nodded, a slightly solemn look adorning her face. Hi, it's water. I'm the only Hyuga outside of my mother to ever have a water affinity. Naruto could tell that it wasn't a good thing for her. Most likely, the Hyuga were mostly a Doden-based clan, Earth. It was evident by their rigid fighting style and stoic demeanor, while Hinata's body was more flexible and fluent, along with her emotions, just like water. Naruto smiled at the girl, snapping his fingers a few times to get her attention. Hey, don't do that. You're too pretty be all frowned up like that. His words had the desired effect as her face took on the hue of a rose, but her lips curled into a tiny smile regardless. Arigato Naruto-kun. Like I was saying, since you have a water affinity, you won't be able to use the traditional Jukin as well as the rest of your clan. You're too fast and fluent for it. You can improve it, Hinata-chan, and make a style that not even your father could surpass. Well, with training, of course. Do you really think I can, Naruto-kun? She didn't want to get ahead of herself. Listening to Naruto, the short explanation did make sense. She had come to the conclusion several times on her own, but never had she dared to change tradition. However, being around Naruto was seeming to give her a huge confidence boost, one that she hadn't felt since the times of her mother. Of course you can. As long as you don't give up and don't let anyone stand in your way. As far as I'm concerned, you're the strongest genin kunoichi in Konoha, and one of the strongest genin as well. Pretty sure you can kick my if you got serious. Hinata blushed deeply at his words of encouragement. No one had shown that much faith in her in a long time. It brought tears to her eyes. The feeling was even greater because it was Naruto of all people giving her this encouragement. With a resolute nod, Hinata's eyes, for the first time in years, shone fierce determination. Already her mind was going through several scenarios of new techniques and fluent patterns to incorporate into her fighting style. Can I walk you home, Hinata-chan? He asked, jumping up and extending a hand to the reddened princess. I would love that, Naruto-kun. She agreed, slowly taking his hand. Naruto chuckled to himself as she trembled. It wasn't how he had planned for the day to go, but Hinata had surprised him. She was much more skilled than all of the girls her age, and he just wanted to keep pushing her to see how strong she actually was. Wait. What did Hinata just say? See, can we hang out again? In a few days, Naruto-kun. Naruto almost stopped walking. Of course, Hina-chan. Anytime you want, you know where to find me. More than you know. Hinata thought, blushing. They walked to the Hyuga gates in silence, neither knowing exactly what to say to the other. Hinata hadn't expected to spend the day with the blonde shinobi. She even wondered how she managed to go the whole day while only fainting once around him. This is it, Naruto-kun. I guess. I'll see you later. Alright. See ya, Hinata-chan. Hinata prepared to turn and go into the mansion. However, Naruto gently grabbed her shoulder and in the same instant, planted a small kiss on her cheek. Hinata froze, eyes wide. Naruto grinned and dashed off back towards his own home. Hinata slowly turned around, opened the gate and walked back towards the mansion. Silently opening the door, she walked up to her room. Her little sister, Hanabi, stood right in front of her room, smirking arrogantly. So where have you been, Nei-san? She sarcastically added, Nei-san, showing no respect for her older sister. Hinata didn't reply, angering Hanabi. I said, where have you, Nei-san? Naruto smirked to himself as he reached his apartment. It was a last-minute thought, but he was sure that Kiss let Hinata know how he felt. I will save you this time, Hinata-chan. We'll get stronger together, he thought as he entered the building. Kicking off his sandals and tossing aside his vest, he flopped onto his bed. Alright, so what's on the agenda now? He closed his eyes, slowly drifting to sleep. I guess it's that time. A chill went down Naruto's spine. He opened his eyes and found himself in front of the Kyuubi's cage. The ground was no longer covered in water, but everything else remained unchanged. However, Naruto couldn't see the Kyuubi inside the cage. Hey Fox. You here? You damn well better be. He yelled. A grumbling sound echoed from behind the bars and Naruto knew the fox was still imprisoned. Go away, Kit. What? Why? Giving up a tail hurt your pride or something? Naruto chuckled, feeling no regret in taunting the fox. I saved your life, you insolent fool. You'd better show a little gratitude. Naruto sighed. Yeah, the fox had saved his life. But come on, it was the nine-tailed demon, the thing that had attacked and damn near destroyed Konoha. Add that to the fact that it was the reason most of his life turned out to be bullshit, and seeing it suffer wasn't as bad as it seemed. Fine, Fox. By the way, what's the deal with these visions? I'm seeing into the future and you never told me that was part of the deal. It is a side effect, nothing more. Everything you saw is what is supposed to happen. Naruto scowled. That's not true. Some things have already changed. And I know Hinata-chan. I said it's what's supposed to happen, not what will happen. You can change some things if you try hard enough. Some things, however, are determined by nature itself. Nature. No. I won't accept Hinata-chan's death. I'll save her and everyone else. If that is all you wanted to know, then leave. I want to sleep for a few years. A few years. What about the Chunin exams? And Sasuke? Naruto asked in a panicked voice. You have one tail of my chakra coursing through your tainted veins, don't you? You are smart enough to get stronger on your own to defeat the Hyuga and the Uchiha. Now be gone. Your voice annoys me. The fox went silent and Naruto was pulled from his mind. However, the Kyuubi opened one eye after Naruto was already gone. It looked back at its swaying tails, it only had 7 left. In the real world, Naruto groaned and turned over in bed. Great. Now what do I do? He thought, trying to fall asleep completely. However, as he closed his eyes, he felt himself being forcefully pulled. Opening his eyes again, he found himself on the ground, several black rods sticking into him and pinning him to the ground. What the hell? He tried to move, but the pain stopped him immediately. What's going on here? I'm just being selfish. Hinata-chan. No, not again. Why am I still seeing this if it's not going to happen? Naruto screamed in his mind. Some things just aren't meant to change. You showed me the right way, Naruto-kun. You were there for me, you helped me get stronger. No, Hinata-chan. It won't end like this, I promise you. His voice wouldn't come out and he could still feel the pain from the stakes in his body. I was always chasing you, wanting to overtake you. I just wanted to walk with you. You gave me that, Naruto-kun. I just wish I would have told you then. We never got together still. Why? As if she had heard him, Hinata kept talking. I'm sorry father never allowed it, Naruto-kun, but seeing you whenever I got the chance kept me going in. Hiashi. Naruto was on the verge of tears. I'm not afraid to die protecting you because I. Naruto closed his eyes, cringing as tears stung his cheeks. Love you. Hinata-chan. The rain settled over Konoha like a bad omen. 2 days prior, an appalling standstill left the village in melancholy. No one knew it happened except one blonde shinobi. Now, on the morning of the 3rd day, the rain was pouring like Sanbon. The Jinchuriki had yet to leave his apartment. A knock sounded at his door. Someone was knocking again. It was the 3rd time. He hesitantly stood on 2 shaken legs. The vision 2 days ago, it had left him traumatized. To see it again, with even more clarity. With even more feeling. It was as if he was actually there that time. Naruto, open the door. Sakura's voice called just as a crash of thunder sounded. Not knowing what else to do, he slowly opened it, instantly stepping aside to let the bubblegum-haired Kunoichi inside. Letting down the umbrella she held, Sakura paused for a second, taking in the clean apartment she hadn't expected to see. Getting over it after a second, she turned to the pale blonde. No wonder you didn't show up to training, you look terribly sick. Naruto looked at his hands and indeed, he was as pale as paper. His body even ached, as if he had just been in the fight of his life. What happened to you? She asked, cocking an eyebrow. Slowly catching up to speed, Naruto shook his head to clear his thoughts. What are you doing here, Sakura-chan? He asked, his voice coming out hoarse. Sakura put her hands on her hips. I come to check on you and that's the greeting you give me. She smirked slightly, seeing the small blush pass his features. That's just it. Why did you come to check on me? He mumbled, but Sakura heard him, getting slightly hurt from the statement. She sat on his couch and sighed. I was worried, Baka. I wanted to apologize. So you came through the rain just to do that? Naruto was just saying whatever came to mind. It wasn't intentional, not completely. However, a smack to his face completely woke him up. Yes. I trudged through the rain and mud to come and apologize to you, Naruto. She shouted, a tear in her eye. Sakura-chan. I'm sorry, I didn't